far greater than the imagination of man. For instance, how much more remarkable it is for us all to be struck down by a mysterious attraction to a spinning ball that's been swinging in space for billions of years than to be carried on the back of an elephant supported on a tortoise swimming in a bottomless sea. I've thought about these things so many times alone that I hope you'll excuse me if I remind you of this type of thought that I'm sure many of you have had, which no one could ever have had in the past because people then didn't have the information we have about the world today. For instance, I stand at the seashore alone and start to think. Mountains of molecules, each stupidly minding its own business, trillions apart, yet forming white surf in unison. Ages on ages, before any eyes could see, year after year, thunderously pounding the shore as now. For whom? For what? On a dead planet with no life to entertain, never at rest, tortured by energy wasted prodigiously by the sun poured into space. A might makes the sea roar. Deep in the sea, all molecules repeat the patterns of one another till complex new ones are formed. They make others like themselves, and a new dance starts, growing in size and complexity, living things, masses of atoms, DNA, protein dancing a pattern ever more intricate. Out of the cradle, onto dry land, here it is standing. Atoms with consciousness, matter with curiosity, stands at the sea, wonders at wondering. I, a universe of atoms, an atom in the universe. Highly recommend the work of Richard Feynman, but my favourite, I'll now introduce Professor Brian Cox for one of the most beautiful pieces of science. So please welcome, he's not a beautiful piece of science, by the way. And it turns out, by the way, it was L'Oreal. Anyway, please.
Myself and Robin are enormous fans of Carl Sagan, and we thought it'd be a nice way to end the evening to look at one of the most beautiful pieces of work that Carl Sagan does. It concerns the perspective that science, engineering, exploration, just rational thought gives us. I think one of the great benefits, the most valuable things about astronomy, about space exploration, is indeed the value, the perspective that we get when we lift ourselves off the surface of the Earth and look back. This is one of the most famous, we did the lights actually again, this is one of the most famous pictures of the Earth from space. It's a picture that had a great impact when it was taken on my first Christmas Eve actually, in 1968, when Apollo 8 went around the back of the moon for the first time. Borman, Lovell and Anders took this famous Earthrise shot that many people have said was the beginning of the modern environmental movement, because for the first time a picture was widely circulated which showed a planet that is not indestructible and massive in some sense, but fragile against the blackness of space. I actually saw Jim Lovell, who one of the astronauts, he didn't actually take this picture, but it was on board the mission, and he said the great thing about this picture is everybody's in it. Which I think the most magnificent picture ever taken for me in the history of space exploration was taken by this spacecraft. This is Voyager 1. Voyager 1 and its 1977 on a mission to the outer planets. Both of them went to Jupiter and Saturn. Voyager 2 went on to Neptune, Uranus and Neptune. This is Voyager 1. It left the solar system. I was on a trajectory out of the solar system after it visited Saturn. We're still in contact with it today, over 30 years after it was launched. It is now right at the edge of the solar system, still beaming back information. Astonishing piece of engineering. But when it left Earth, it took this picture, which was the first picture ever taken of the Earth and Moon system in one frame. So you see the crescent Earth and the crescent Moon. And then when it was 4 billion miles away, so when it had visited Jupiter and Saturn and it was on its way out of the solar system, Carl Sagan had the wonderful idea of turning Voyager round and have it take one last picture of its home planet. And this is the picture. It's a very famous picture called the pale blue dot. That is planet Earth from 4 billion miles away, suspended in a sunbeam, because from 4 billion miles away, planet Earth is very close to its parent star, the Sun. And what I'd like to play now are the words of Carl Sagan. He wrote a very powerful, moving piece about what the pale blue dot meant to him, and hopefully, I think, what it should mean to humanity. So, Carl Sagan.
Consider again that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on the mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Uncaged Monkeys, and these are the Uncaged Monkeys. Thank you very much for coming out tonight, and goodbye.